Hey guys, I'm Madison Mary and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my December wrap up, the last month of 2019. Here it is. So December was an amazing reading month for me. I read 13 books. 11 of those were ebooks and 2 of them were physical. I read 2 YA, 4 NA, and 7 adult. From those I had 2 fantasy, 2 paranormal romances, and 7 romance smut. And then my favorite part is that I read a total of 3,967 pages. Bam. I actually read 2 books this month that were under 3 stars, which doesn't happen very often. So the first one I'm going to talk to you guys about is Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. This actually made it onto my most disappointing reads of 2019. This book is about Misha and Ryan. They have been pen pals ever since they were in middle school because they were like paired up together. And they've shared everything with each other via, letters. Their only rules were that they would not exchange phone numbers, photos, social media. Misha is at a party for his band where he accidentally comes across Ryan and he meets her, but she doesn't know that he's Misha. And then we fast forward 3 months from then, in which Ryan hasn't heard from Misha in 3 months. He hasn't sent her any more letters. She's been sending them to him and he's kind of just ghosted her. She has no idea what's going on. On the first day of school, there is a new guy named Mason and he's a D-bag to her pretty much, and this Mason is actually Misha. So the reason why I didn't like this book is because it turns out that it's a partially dark high school bully romance. Turns out I don't like those. This was my first foray into a high school bully romance and they're definitely not for me. I really wasn't sure. I've always seen them. I've always been intrigued by them, and now that I've tried one, I'm no longer intrigued and I don't want to touch one again because they are just not for me. Why is it that ambulances are so loud in New York City? But yeah, so not for me. And that's the main reason why I didn't like this book, was just because I didn't really feel for the relationship between Misha and Ryan. Mainly because Misha was pretending to be someone else for like 70% of the book, so like that was messed up. And so Ryan was like, oh my god, but I've always loved Misha, but Mason means so much to me. And I'm like, girl, they are the same person. But she don't know that. She doesn't know. But the bully aspect of it just did not sit well with me at all. Like, I've seen hate to love before where characters hate each other and are rude to each other and things like that, but never in this high school bully romance sense. Like, high school bully romances are really not my cup of tea. So I don't think I'm going to be picking up any more of those kind of books. It wasn't the book's fault, it was my own fault. The other book I rated less than 3 stars is One Snowy Night by Jill Shalvis. This was a short novella that I read for 'Tis the Season-a-thon. Turns out I don't like romance novellas that aren't smutty. I went into this being like, oh my god, it's a steamy romance that takes place on Christmas Eve. Oh, I'm gonna love it. And there was no steam. They made out in the car and then had a fade to black sex scene. Like, no. So One Snowy Night is about this girl who's finally going home for Christmas for the first time since she left at the age of 16. However, the only person who she can get a ride from is her ex-childhood crush from high school. And it's about them driving back to their hometown, and I didn't really feel for it. I also think there was an aspect of this that wasn't really well handled. They threw in her getting drugged at a party and used it as like you should be nice to her because she went through this, and then they don't even go further into it. And it's just like, I don't like when those kind of things are used as a plot device without substance. Like, don't just throw that in there. It's such a serious topic that just throwing it in like you did is rude, and it's hurtful to people who have had that happen to them. So yeah, didn't like it. Moving on to my 3-star reads. I'm gonna start with Unexpected Gifts by Eleanor Atkin. This is about Andy Williams, and she is not looking forward to Christmas. She had plans to go back home and spend it with her father, but her father ends up canceling on her last minute. So she's like, well, now I have no Christmas plans, and this Christmas is going to suck because my fiance and I broke up like 6 months ago and everything is awful. So she is not in the Christmas spirit. However, her company was given a coupon to this mountain lodge, and she was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go spend my Christmas at this Christmas lodge and just, have a me day. And so she goes and she gets there and it's blizzarding. The roads are like closed, and the people there go, yeah, we don't have a room for you because we sent that out like 3 weeks ago and you guys never responded. And so we've already sold out of all our rooms, so we don't know what to do. You can like sleep on the couch in the lobby. To which I was like, oh my God, what company would ever do that? But then there's this guy, Colin. Colin finds that his assistant booked him this 3-bedroom villa, and he tells Andy, hey, look, we know each other because they do know each other. He is her ex-fiance's ex-best friend. And he's like, look, we know each other vaguely, so it's not that weird if you want to come stay in my villa, because there are 2 guest rooms. You can stay in the spare rooms. We can just do our own things. That way you don't have to sleep, you know, in the lobby of the lodge. And so she says fine, and then it's about him trying to give her the Christmas spirit, and it's very cutesy. I thought it was a fun, fluffy, cute read. There is some triggers in it. It's literally told to you in the beginning that it has to do with miscarriage. So there is a deeper topic to it, and I appreciate it. It was a good book, but it was a very predictable read, and it was just a fluffy, predictable yet still emotional Christmassy read. The next 3 stars I have to talk to you guys about is Sizzle, and this is a MMF romance that I actually really enjoyed. We follow our 3 characters, so we follow Alex, Elliot, and Joelle. So Alex owns a house that has like a granny flat, and Elliot lives in that granny flat because he's gone through some financial issues, okay? And to go on top of his financial issues, he owns a restaurant. And Elliot's restaurant is not going too hot at the moment, and he's just been informed by his landlady that if he doesn't come up with the rest of the rent in 6 weeks, he's screwed. So he's like, well, crap, what am I supposed to do? So Alex tells him, hey, why don't you revamp the menu because you have no healthy options. Here is this food blogger that I follow. Maybe you can get her to help you because she works here in town. And he's like, okay, fine. So he reaches out to this girl, and her name is Joelle. Joelle's a food blogger, and she doesn't do anything else because her dad got in an accident when she was 16. Her mum left after the accident, and she's had to look after her dad, help him, like, you know, rehabilitate. She's had to find different ways to pay the bills, and she kind of gave up on all of her dreams. So she looks at this as a great opportunity because she can finally really get into the restaurant business. And so we followed the 3 of them. This was a really fun read. It did have a serious topic between the tension of Joelle and her dad and Elliot and Alex. And this is where things get a bit dicey because Alex is bi. He's bi, okay? And as far as we're concerned, Joelle is pretty straight. Elliot is a different story. The first like 70% of the book, he is consistently all like, I'm not gay, like I would never be gay, I'm 33 years old, how could I be gay? But why am I attracted to my best friend? Maybe it's just because Joelle's hot. It was definitely because Joelle's hot. I'm into it because there's this hot girl here. I could never be gay. It was just like going on, and just the way that it was written made me feel uncomfy. However, I've said this before, I'm not a gay man, I'm not a bisexual man, I'm not even a man. So I can't speak to this representation, but something about it made me feel uncomfy that I just didn't want to give it 4 stars. I wish I had someone else's perspective on this book who was own voices to know what this was like, because I feel like in the end it did, I feel like in the end it did show his development to coming to terms with his sexuality, but it was still like not the most comfiest thing to read, and so I couldn't give it higher than the 3 stars. The last 3 to 5 star book I gave, I'm still tossing up between if it's a 3 or a 2.5 because I have a lot of feelings about this book, and that is Command Me. We follow Clara, and on the night of her graduation party from Oxford, she wanders out onto the balcony and sees this like hot and sexy man, and they start talking, okay? And then this chick walks past and he's like, oh crap, her again, and then he makes out with Clara. And then disappears into the night. And she's like, what? A week passes and she's still thinking about the kiss and how great it was. And then next thing you know, there are all these reporters outside of her apartment and her face is all over the tabloids. This is set in England. Because it turns out that the guy that she was kissing at the party is the crown prince, the heir to the throne, Alexander. And she's all like, oh my God, what? And so it's about the 2 of them and their romance. It is BDSM towards the end, like a sub-dom relationship. But most of all, it's about them going back and forth and her being like, I don't want to be in the limelight, like blah, 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 blah. And him being like, I don't do commitment, but you are sexy, so I want you. And I don't know, it started off really strong. But the biggest issue with it is the fact that I liked it, but when you have a smutty book and you don't like the smut, That's a problem. So the reason why I didn't like the smut is because this dude keeps calling her Poppet. You don't call a girl Poppet during sexual intercourse, or while you're doing other sexual things to her, or while you're doing dirty talk. Don't call a girl Poppet. I did research. This author is American, okay? So clearly she doesn't know that you call someone younger and sweeter than you Poppet. Like, my dad calls me Poppet. I don't want to read a book where a guy is using Poppet as a sexual term. Like, no. But otherwise, it had really good eating disorder representation. Well, not the best eating disorder. Okay, so I was diagnosed with an eating disorder in my sophomore year of high school. So this is Own Voices opinion. Our main character has an eating disorder. As soon as I started this book, there were hints dropped. And the entire time, I was like, something's a bit off here. And then it was finally revealed that she did have one, okay? This is not like a major spoiler to the plot, okay? I just want to put this out there. And while I think that there were times where it was well handled, and yes, I did cry while I read this book. That's why I'm thinking it's a 3-star, not like a 2.5, because it did give me that emotional connection in a sense because of the representation. So while it's one of the better representations that I have read, it is still not great. I will admit that there was one line, I'm just gonna quickly say that this is not triggering in my opinion, where it goes, "Did you ever stop to think that I have feelings? Did you ever consider what a story like this could do to someone in recovery, or what it tells people too scared to ask for help?" And I love that because I think that it really spoke to the idea of how people look at people who have eating disorders in such a taboo way, and how they judge them, and how there are some people out there who just say things that are flat out rude. And I'm just like, I was reading this book and I can see it. Like, people make rude comments sometimes when people have eating disorders, and I got fired up, just like Clara would get fired up with how people were treating her, and I felt for her in that sense. So I'm continuing on with this series because it ends on a massive cliffhanger, and I was like pissed off by the cliffhanger, and I was like, bye, second book. So if you're wondering how I function, that's how I function. Okay, so one of the 2 physical books I read this month, which I don't even have on me, that I gave 3.5 stars to is Ice Like Fire by Sarah Rush. I did not finish this entire trilogy this year like I wanted to, but at least I got the first 2 books down. So this is the second book in the Snow Like Ashes trilogy. I gave it 3.5 because I really did not like the first half of this book, but I did like the second half of it. All I can tell you is that the beginning started off slow. All the characters kind of were annoying me, especially the love interests, were just annoying the crap out of me. And like, I honestly can't even remember why I didn't like this, and I can't even remember why I did like this. All I know was that it wasn't as good as the first book. So the last 3 to 5-star book I have talked to you guys about is the I Kissed the Boss box set by Lindsay Hart. So this is 2 books in one. And they're both Christmas set. So I read this actually on Christmas Day. So that was kind of fun to do. So the first one is Claimed by the Boss, and we follow Ambi and Trey. And 5 years ago, Ambi and Trey were like college sweethearts, but Trey's dad was like, you have to break up with this girl or you will lose your inheritance. And Trey ended up picking his inheritance. That's what happens in these books. And Ambi was pissed. So now it's 5 years later, and Trey regrets his decision, and Ambi's still pissed, but she's now this not very successful, but she now owns her own event planning business. Trey ends up convincing his father to throw a office Christmas party, and he does this because he uses it as a way to hire Ambi to then plan the office Christmas party. And initially she doesn't want to, but then he offers her an obscene amount of money to do it. And she's like, you know what? Screw you. I'm gonna plan this. I'm gonna take your money. It's gonna be the best Christmas party you've ever seen, and I'm gonna make you regret your decision even more than you already do. And so it's about him trying to win her back and her like not wanting to take him back. And it's like that kind of a tension. And there's a hilarious scene to do with her calling him a burrito and then a naked burrito. So that sounds weird, but I promise, I like that one a lot. It was quick, fun, fluffy, you know, all that kind of stuff. The other book in the box set, which is Kissed by the Boss, is a bit more serious because it has to do with miscarriage and teenage pregnancy. So do be aware of those triggers going in. So in this book, every year there's an office Christmas party, and every year everyone gets plastered. And this year everyone's plastered and there's mistletoe, so all the co-workers are just randomly kissing each other. So we follow Callie, and she's just been working at the company for a couple months now. She's trying to get back on her feet after her fiance left her, I think 8 months ago to a year ago. And she goes to the Christmas party and she loses her contacts. Like, one of them falls out and she's like, well, I can't just keep one of them in. So she takes them both out and she's relying on her best friend to like help her, but her best friend gets plastered and then she gets kind of plastered and then she ends up kissing some guy under the mistletoe, but she doesn't know who he is, even though it was a really steamy kiss. The next day, her boss, because she's the admin assistant to the boss, is acting kind of weird. And it turns out that the guy that she kissed under the mistletoe was her boss, Matt. And so it goes on from there. But yes, it does have much more emotional things in it, and it is not as light and fluffy, but it is still a very sweet romance between the two of the characters. And I've kind of preferred these two together compared to the other couple, because even though the other couple had history, you kind of saw Callie and Matt grow history together. So that's just my own opinion. So moving into my 4-star reads of the month, I'm going to start with Nameless Clean by Rebecca McLaughlin. This came out on January 7th. Actually the day I'm filming this. This was a really great debut standalone. I highly recommend it. So Nameless Queen, we follow Coin. And in this society, there are 3 classes. There are the nameless, the legals, and the royals. If you're not a legal or a royal, you're a nameless. And nameless means you don't have a name. You're not legal because you have no name in this society. You are considered nothing. In this society, when the king or the queen passes on, they will speak the name of the person they want to transfer the crown tattoo to. And the crown tattoo is what makes you the royal leader. It's what makes you king or queen because it has magical properties in it. The issue that happens is when the king passes away, he doesn't pass the tattoo to his daughter. No, he passes it to Coin, who was like, A, first off, how'd you pass it to me if I don't have a name? And B, why'd you pass it to me? It's really cool because you see Coin being thrown into this new world where everyone doesn't want her to be queen, but they can't do anything about it because she has the tattoos. They're hoping that they don't know what to do, and it's this whole weird situation that they're not used to, and it's rife with political intrigue, and there's no romance in this, so it really focuses on the characters and on Coin as she begins to learn that, you know, even though she doesn't want to be queen, maybe there's something good that she can do with it. That is the reason why I gave it 4 instead of 5 stars, is because it does take her like 60% of the book to be like, maybe me being a nameless queen is a good thing, and maybe I can do something with it to help the nameless, instead of her being like, I don't want to be queen, just take it away from me, blah, blah, blah. That was the most annoying part of this book. The next 4 out of 5-star book is one I have been avoiding talking about because I don't want people to hate me, but I gave 4 out of 5 stars to Feast of Sparks by ɪṛsᴛᴏ. This is the second book in the Lesson in Thorns quartet. I think it's going to be 4 books because there's the 4 events that happen. And I really liked this. Even though I understand why everyone hates the ending, I kind of get it. I kind of get it. This book already has taken so many leaps and strides that like are just so crazy and out there, and just like it's not your typical book. So when it pulls these punches that I personally would normally hate in books, it happens in this, and I'm just like, okay, fair enough. The plot twist at the end of this is one that I would normally read and be like, that's it, it's a 1-star book, I hate it, don't want to hear any more from this author. But no, in this sense, I read it and I was like, oh, okay, let's see where we go from here. I kind of still ship it. Which is a problem. I'm being problematic, okay? And I understand that, but I still really loved it. I feel like most people know what Lesson in Thorns is about, but it's this quartet that is basically this massive polyamorous bi-orgy. And it has slight undertones to do with this whole mystery going on. It's about rituals and orgies, ritualistic orgies. It's really cool in my own opinion because I know that she's actually quite accurate in how she portrays these rituals that are quite well known. I cannot put my finger on them. I know Samhain is one of them. I enjoy the lore that comes from them learning about these different rituals that have to do with this land. I love the interaction of all the characters. I love reading MMF romances, MM romances, FF romances, MF romances. I honestly, I don't know. I liked it. That's all I can say. That's my justification. So I'm going to continue on with the series. We'll see how it goes, but yep. The next 1 to 5 stars is Not the Girl You Marry by Andy J. Christopher. This is a gender-bent version of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Disclaimer, I have not seen that movie in like minimum 8 years, probably more. So I wasn't comparing it to that at all when I was reading this. And I honestly had a blast. So we're following Jack and Hannah. Jack is the journalist, he does like these how-to videos, and he wants to move away from that, and he wants to go onto like the political beat instead for his magazine. However, his editor says he has to go out with a bang and tells him to write this how-to on how to lose a girl in 10 days. He's known as like this perfect boyfriend, and like girls just break up with him because they find someone better. Like he's always the guy that girls date before they like find the one, and he's like boo-hoo pity party me, which is like the biggest reason why this was a 4 out of 5 instead of a 5 out of 5. It's like this man was a walking talking pity party. Okay, so he decides to do this thing. Then we follow Hannah, who is the girl that he uses for this article, and she has given up on men because she's always been told that she's just not the girl you marry. She's just too crass. She's a girl that you have fun with, that you know, she's your one night stand, but you know, she's not the kind of girl that you take home to meet mum and dad. She's like, you know what, screw you all. I'm just gonna have fun on my own. And I loved her. She was badass, crass. Like she reminded me of me in that sense, because honestly, I'm an extremely crass human being. I also really related to the fact that when we met Jack's family, it reminded me of my own family. They were hilarious in the way they were. Like the younger daughter would swear and the dad would be like, hey, don't swear. She's like, well, Dad, I didn't use the C word at least. And I was just like, ah. I thought the humor in this was hilarious. So the humor is really what made this a 4-star book, was that it's a rom-com through and through. It is just so funny and hilarious, and I loved it for that sense. The biggest issue I had was Jack's character. Just didn't really connect with him, while I did love Hannah. She's the event planner, and her boss is like, you want to move up in the company, but I don't want to let you do weddings because you're a cynical person when it comes to love. And then she's like, well, I have this boyfriend now, and then she has to keep Jack for like 2 weeks until the Halloween party. So that's that part of the story. The last 4 out of 5 star read that I read was Dark Lover by J.R. Ward. This is the first book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, which I'm so glad I started. This series is about the Black Dagger Brotherhood and each of the members. So we follow the head of the Brotherhood, Wrath, and he's actually supposed to be the king of the vampires, but he doesn't really want to be. So he decided, I'm not going to, because I'm the only pure blood vampire left and you can't make me. So we follow him, and then we follow Beth, and Beth is half vampire, half human. And her dad is actually one of Wrath's inner circle. And when he passes away, he asks in his last dying breath, please, this is my daughter, look after her. She's going to be going through the transition soon, and I want her to survive it, and she's going to need your blood in order to survive. And Wrath is all like, bro, what? No. But then he dies, so he's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then it's their romance. And I actually really loved it. It did take me a little while to really get into it because there was like a lot going on, and we switched perspectives a lot. So we go from like Beth to Wrath to this detective to like this other vampire and this other vampire's brother, and then the Omega's like minion, and just all these different perspectives we constantly go between. And that was just, it was a lot. Like it would take you out of scenes because you would switch perspectives. Oh, you're hungry, aren't you? We would switch perspectives for like just a little while, wouldn't we, Bosco? Yes, you just a cutie patootie. Now you guys just saw that I wear sweatpants while I film. Well, I love you. Love you so much. Good boy. I'll feed you soon. That's how I speak to my dog. You guys have seen how I speak to my cat. Now you know how I speak to my dog. Bosco, can you just sit for a second? I need to finish filming. But yeah, I really loved it otherwise. I will admit it's very sexy, like it's very raw, primal sex, because they have like this primal mating bond. The only sad thing is we don't follow Beth and Wrath again, like in their own specific book, until book 10. This is book 1. Gotta get through another 9 books to get to it. Like, that kind of sucks, just saying, but I love the other Brotherhood members. That that doesn't bother me. Like, I'm excited to see what else goes on in this world and how everything keeps on, you know, progressing. And you can currently hear my dog drinking water very loudly. So for my 2 5-star reads for this month, I'm going to start with the novella I read, and that is Theirs for a Night. Oh my God, was this amazing? Oh, this is an MMF novella. This is the first in the Thalian Dynasty series, and it is so good. I cannot tell you guys too much because it doesn't reveal in the plot of this book like what you find out and like what the rest of the series is about, but it's so good. So we follow Meg Sanders, and it's her 23rd birthday, and her best friend is like, girl, you need to get out of the house, let's celebrate for once. And so Meg goes to the bar for her 23rd birthday, and she ends up catching the eye of these 2 guys in the VIP club, and yeah, she's theirs for the night, as the title says. And all I can tell you guys is that you should read this. It was so good. I wish I could tell you oh my God, it was just so good. The last 5-star book I read actually made it to my best books of 2019, and that is Queen Takes Knights. This book is vampire erotica with plot. Beautiful. So we follow Shara. Her dad was killed when she was young, and then her mum ended up being killed 5 years ago. She's been on the run ever since from the monsters that killed both her parents. Present day, she is currently working in a motel, and one night she ends up getting completely surrounded by monsters, and you know what? Seems like her luck has just run out. She's done for. These 2 guys come out of the woods running, being like, my queen, we're here to save you, don't worry my queen, we are here. And they slay all the monsters, and she's like just dumbfounded. And they end up telling her that Alric and Dare are her bloods, which are basically her knights because she is a vampire queen. The reason why she didn't know about any of this is because her mum kind of ran away. So Shara ends up accepting her vampire bloodline, takes in these 2 guys as her bloods, and we have very steamy romance between the 2 of them because a queen passes her power to her bloods through sex and blood. And then the bloods also provide power to their queen through their blood and sex. So there's a lot of bloody sex that goes on. I'm super excited to keep on going to see where this series leads because Shara is really coming into her own, and she's really badass because even though she has these guys protecting her, she's still like going gung-ho to defend herself, and like she wants to improve her powers because she wants to take revenge on these creatures that have made her like last 18 years a living hell. However, the only issue now is that there are other queens that want Shara's power. So I'm super excited to see where it keeps on going. But yes, this is my final wrap up for 2019, even though it's coming out in 2020. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of me, please go to my channel. And until next time, thanks a bunch guys. Bye.